Welcome back to my presentation. Now I would like to talk about my prototyping process. So first I created very rough low fidelity sketches of my wireframes on paper, as you can see on the left side. I drew multiple wireframes on one sheet and put instructions around it, and tried to upload it to Prod app, but failed miserably. So I couldn't figure out how to cut the pages into the pieces that I needed to. So then I created a second batch of sketches using the wireframe templates with the two phone screens on each page, and this enabled me to create my digital prototype in the app, which I then used for usability testing. So for usability testing, I ran it with 4 participants this past Sunday actually, and paid attention to the different user segments I had identified in my user research. The variables that I defined as classifying the different target audiences were age, gender, and learning type / style. So knowing that almost half of all surveyed users are kinesthetic learners, I focused on the differentiation of needing to write, which you can see on the right side. The females are the writers, versus needing to speak, which are the two guys on the left side. I also found out that there are different ways to learn. So you can either be a playful learner and prefer unexpected and kind of chaotic non-linear ways of learning, or you can be very systematic and you have a goal and you want to prepare for that, and it's very bam bam bam. So those were 2 different learning types I also wanted to use to differentiate my my users. So we got 2 systematic users, Marcus and Sonia, and 2 playful users, which are Nina and David. In terms of the tasks, I gave my users the following 4 tasks. So first I wanted them to create an account. I gave them the scenario that they would travel to New York for business and download this app at the airport before flying off, because they wanted to prepare for business situations and be ready to speak English with an American accent. So, second task I asked them was to fill in their profile. So this is one of the first sequences in the app once you finish signing up or logging in when you're returning to the app. So this includes questions about their learning type, and one question where they should describe themselves in 3 words. The third task was to navigate to the pronunciation check, which is one of the practice methods inside the app, and also test out the intuitiveness of the navigation in general. The scenario that I gave the users were that they were in their hotel room the night before, or not the night before, a few hours before joining a networking event, and so they wanted to prepare for that specific situation. Fourth task entailed playing a round of categories, which is a vocabulary game that gets unlocked once you practice your pronunciation enough. So as part of this task, I wanted to see how the calls for action, including all the buttons and the instructions on each of the screens, are faring with the users, if they're understandable, and if users know how to get from each screen to the next one. So for the different tasks, I have identified key areas for improvement. So I realized that the categorization of the kinesthetic learning type needed to happen after the login sign-up process, because otherwise it just gets very confusing and complicated. As you can see on the second screen in the middle, it's just a very like wordy way to sign up, and it needs to be a little bit simpler so people can understand it better. Then there's another thing that's part of the sign-up process, which is the topics that you're interested in. This is for like the playful learning path. Here I got the feedback that more topic options are needed, and that I need to clarify that 1 to 3 topics can be selected max. So I need to add a button at the bottom of this wireframe. Then for the second task, the profiling, I realized that it probably makes sense to remove the question with describing yourself in 3 adjectives, because this is something that not all users were comfortable with. So like 50 to 75% of users were not really too fussed about that or didn't want to go through that. So either I have to remove it, or I need to enable users to skip that. In terms of navigation, I think I have to actually explain the navigation bar once I introduce it, to make them understand that there's a training section and there's a match section, and to find the pronunciation check you actually have to click on train. So I need to call out the train option specifically, or have some kind of tutorial feature that points out the train option. The same goes for the match option when it comes to the vocabulary games, which was part of the 4th task. So here I realized that I also need to explain the recording feature a little bit more, as some users might not be the most familiar with this functionality yet. Within the categories game, there's the instruction to like select categories, and I wanted to make a drag and drop routine work there, but I think I definitely need to like explain that it's not like self-explanatory. And then I also need to embed action buttons on some screens, like for example on the screen that you see on the slide on the right side. You don't really know what to do to like go to the next screen, or to like start the game. So a start button would definitely not hurt there. So this is a summary basically of my usability test results. I ranked the different observations as well as next steps that I would like to take by the level of severity. Yeah, I have one task that has a severity level of 4, so I definitely need to change that. It's essential as part of the sign-up process that one is like as simple as possible, because otherwise this would be a huge like drawback, yeah, like scare away a lot of new users, which I don't want to do. Yeah, and then the other ones are also very pressing. So there's 4 issues that I gave a severity level of 3. I won't go through these like in detail, because I think you already listened to my voice enough. But this is the overview basically of all the next steps that I would like to take based on the usability test. Moving on to my key learnings from this project. So what I took away in terms of pros and cons. So pros are like things that I realized like in a positive sense, which are good about doing proper user research and like user-centered design. And cons are like things that I observed that are speaking a little bit against it. So to summarize, I will start with the pros. It takes a lot of courage actually to present early prototypes to users. Like, I was very hesitant to do that. I kind of wanted to like make the prototype as perfect as possible before getting somebody to critique it. But it's actually really, really good to do that as early as possible, and the feedback that you gain through that is invaluable, because then you might realize that you don't actually need to invest that much time into certain features that you would have otherwise spent a lot of time creating. Then I also realized that key users are quite motivated and happy to become part of the creation process, which was really nice to see. It was definitely a topic that interested them. But I was able to harness that creative energy in various ways. So through my interviews, the survey that I conducted, I also created a card sorting exercise with 10 participants, and my usability tests were really successful. And so what I also learned is that I need to start out a little bit more simple and really think about how I can make it as easy and foolproof as possible. So really think of like the dumbest possible user for the user, and really like make like simple like the priority before moving on to more layers or complicated thoughts and concepts. In terms of cons, I realized that scheduling and executing the user interviews and the usability tests was very time intense. It takes quite a lot of persuasion and relationship building to have users committed to helping you out, because it's essentially their time that they spend with you on this. So that was somehow a little bit challenging, I would say. I also realized that maybe too much user focus can also be bad at times, as I then make the product all about the user and little about myself. So I need to add my own flavor to the mix and sometimes be more confident and listen to my own voice as well. That kind of stands in contrast with my last takeaway, which is that I can get really lost in my own creativity. Which happened during the prototyping phase. It lasted way too long, which kind of like, postponed my delivery dates of the assignments. So I think it's probably better to flesh parts out, and even if they are or feel imperfect to me, I need to like get rolling with it, and it's better to then test them, get feedback, edit before I finalize them, and not have the ambition to make everything perfect before showing it to anybody. So these are like my key learnings. And this is also concluding now. Like, this is really the end of my presentation. Now it's up to half an hour, I guess. If you really listened this far, I'm very proud of you. Thanks a lot for listening to me speak and presenting my work to you. If you have any questions or any remarks or ideas of how, things could have been even better, or if there's something that came to your mind while listening to this, do not hesitate to contact me. I'd be really happy to, get in touch with you and, to connect on this topic a little bit more, as it's something that really, really interests me, and, looking forward to chat.